Welcome to Fluent Daily, the English listening channel for advanced learners at B2 and C1 level. Every episode features a rich, flowing conversation in natural English on a topic that is genuinely worth thinking about: history, psychology, science, philosophy, and more. There are no simplified sentences here, no slow speech, no vocabulary drills. Just real English spoken naturally on ideas that matter. This is Fluent Daily. Let's get into it.
Today we have a great story, so let's get started right now. Imagine the scenario for a second. You just crushed a major presentation at work.
Oh yeah, the classic high.
Right. You were speaking English, you were navigating all this complex industry terminology, reading the room, fielding Q&A sessions like an absolute professional.
You feel invincible.
Exactly. You walk away feeling incredibly confident, your vocabulary was flawless, your grammar was just locked in. So you head over to the office coffee machine feeling like, a linguistic genius.
Setting the stage for disaster.
Totally. A colleague is standing there holding a mug. They turn to you, smile, and mumble this really quick, maybe 10-word sentence about their weekend plans. And suddenly your brain just flatlines.
Just dial-up tone. Nothing.
Nothing. You understand absolutely nothing. It sounds like this blur of vowels and swallowed consonants. So you just stand there, nodding, chuckling nervously, terrified they're going to ask you a follow-up question.
It is a uniquely terrifying moment, honestly. And it usually ends with you giving a really vague, oh yeah, definitely, just hoping it wasn't a yes or no question.
I know that panic so well. I mean, you feel like a fraud. You think, how can I present a quarterly financial report in English, but I can't understand a joke about a lawnmower?
Right. It feels like a massive regression.
It really does. Well, if you have ever been in that coffee machine scenario, today is for you. Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a phenomenon that plagues advanced English learners, basically anyone operating at a B2 or C1 level.
The advanced plateau.
Yeah. So our mission for this deep dive is to crack the acoustic code of why you can read perfectly, why you can write these eloquent emails, but you hit an absolute brick wall when listening to fast, natural, unscripted English.
And, the scientific term for that brick wall is a developmental plateau, but colloquially, it's just known as the comprehension wall.
The comprehension wall.
Yeah. It is the stark, really frustrating gap between your reading proficiency and your conversational listening proficiency. And we aren't going to spend the next hour just commiserating about how unfair it is, right? We're going to look under the hood.
Right. We want solutions.
Exactly. We're exploring the acoustic science, the articulatory phonetics of the human mouth, and the psychology of what is actually happening in your brain when a native speaker speeds up. And, of course, most importantly, we're laying out the evidence-based strategies to actually fix it.
I love that. So let's start by relieving you of a massive amount of guilt right off the bat.
Yes, please.
When you hit that comprehension wall, your first instinct is to blame yourself. You assume your vocabulary is just, too weak.
Oh, definitely.
You think they must be using obscure slang or high-level idioms or phrasal verbs I just haven't memorized from my textbook yet.
Which, to be fair, is a completely logical assumption to make. I mean, if you don't understand a sentence, you naturally assume you don't know the words.
Right.
But the data tells a completely different story. The vocabulary used in casual fast speech is actually statistically much simpler than the vocabulary you process easily in written text.
Hey, really?
Yeah. In a casual conversation, native speakers rely on a very tight core of high-frequency words. It's not complex vocabulary at all.
Wait, let me make sure I'm following this. The words they are using at the coffee machine are objectively simpler, more basic words than the ones in the financial report I just read.
Yes. Highly basic words.
So why on earth is it so much harder for me to understand?
Because you are suffering from a phonological mismatch.
A phonological mismatch. Oh.
Right. You are actively scanning the audio for words that, well, acoustically speaking, simply are not there anymore. The root cause of this entire frustrating experience goes all the way back to your very first days in an English classroom and how you were taught the language.
Okay, take me back to the classroom.
You were trained on what linguists call citation forms.
Okay, citation forms. Break that down for me. I assume that means the way a word is cited, like in a dictionary?
That's the core of it, yeah. Formal language instruction provides a model of pronunciation based on a word being spoken in complete isolation.
Right.
The teacher takes a deep breath, stands at the front of the room, and says the word really carefully, giving every single vowel and consonant its full, majestic acoustic weight.
Like really enunciating.
Exactly. You learn the word and. You learn the word have. You learn the word to. You memorize the spelling, and you memorize that beautiful, crystal clear pronunciation.
Which is great for getting started. I mean, you need that foundation.
It's totally necessary for getting started. The problem is that natural human speech is not just a string of dictionary words spoken quickly. Fast speech doesn't just take those perfect citation forms and hit fast forward on the tape player.
So it actually changes.
It fundamentally changes. When speech speeds up, the actual physical reality of the words alters. The acoustic properties are different.
You know, it makes me think of learning to read. Like, imagine you are taught to read using pristine, beautifully typed text on a high-definition screen.
Right, like Times New Roman.
Yeah, exactly. You master the shapes. You know exactly what a capital A looks like or a lowercase t. You get so good at reading this typed font. But then, for your final exam, someone hands you a piece of paper covered in sloppy, messy, cursive handwriting.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
And it's written in pencil by someone riding on a very bumpy train.
A bumpy train. Yeah, exactly. And the letters are technically the same. They carry the exact same semantic meaning.
But the physical shape has entirely transformed. The loops, the connected lines, the rushed strokes.
Right.
And the mistake we make as learners is staring at that bumpy cursive and desperately searching for the crisp typed letters we memorized in school.
And that strategy will fail every single time.
Yeah.
If you want to understand natural speech, you can't just try to listen, harder for the citation forms. You have to learn the specific rules of the cursive.
The rules of the messiness.
Exactly. You have to understand what physically happens to words when they are pushed through the biological machinery of fast human speech.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics. What are the rules of this messy cursive? Because looking at the research for this deep dive, it points to 4 distinct phonological shapeshifters.
I think 4, yeah.
Right. These are 4 specific processes that aggressively transform the English language the moment it leaves the textbook and enters the real world. So we need to go through every single one in detail because this is the secret code, right? Let's start with the first one, which seems to be the most destructive reduction.
Reduction is really the foundation of conversational English. To understand it, you have to divide the language into 2 buckets.
Okay, 2 buckets.
First, you have content words. Nouns, main verbs, adjectives, adverbs. These carry the actual meaning of the sentence.
Heavy lifters.
Right. Then you have function words. These are the grammatical glue. Prepositions, articles, conjunctions, auxiliary verbs, words like at, the, and, can, have.
The little tiny words that just hold the big words together.
Exactly. When a native speaker talks fast, they prioritize the content words. The function words are unstressed. And because they are unstressed, they shrink.
They physically shrink.
They do. But they don't just get shorter in duration. Their actual vowel sounds physically change into something entirely different.
Yeah.
They reduce to what linguists call a schwa.
Ah, the infamous schwa. I feel like this is the ghost that haunts the English language. Ground this for me physically. What is my mouth doing when I make a schwa sound?
The schwa is basically the sound of absolute phonetic laziness.
Laziness.
Total laziness. Your tongue doesn't stretch high. It doesn't push forward. It doesn't pull back. It just relaxes dead in the center of your mouth. Your lips are neutral. Your jaw is slightly open. And you just let out a little grunt of air. Ah, try it. That's it. It is the most common vowel sound in the English language, and it replaces almost every single clear vowel you learned in citation form.
Okay, so let's run through some examples to see how destructive this actually is. Let's take the word to, spelled T-O. In a classroom, you learn it sounds like to, rhyming with shoe, but you're saying at the coffee machine, it doesn't sound like that at all.
Almost never. In connected speech, that clear oo vowel completely collapses into a schwa. It becomes t. Right? You don't say, I'm going to the store. You say, I'm going to the store.
To the store. Okay, what about the word for, F-O-R? That clear or sound just vanishes.
It becomes f, like this foo you.
Foo you. Wow, okay, and the preposition of O-N.
The O turns into a schwa, and sometimes the F barely survives. It becomes uvai, or just a grunt, like a piece cake.
A piece cake. And then there are the conjunctions and, A and D. I mean, in the dictionary, you have a clear A, an N, and a hard D.
Yeah, but in fast speech, the A becomes a schwa, and the D often disappears entirely.
Just gone.
Gone. It becomes or sometimes just a nasal consonant hanging in the air, N.
Think about how you say the music genre. You don't enunciate rock and roll.
Oh, right. You say rock and roll.
Exactly. The and is literally just a single letter N floating between the words.
And auxiliary verbs take a massive hit too, right? The word have.
Yeah.
H-A-V-E. Huge hit. The H is often dropped, the vowel reduces to a schwa, and you are left with UV, or just a V sound attached to the previous word. I could have becomes I could do've.
I could do've. There's a full sentence example from the research that really solidified this for me because it shows how this reduction completely alters the architecture of a whole thought.
Oh, I know the one you mean. Let's hear it.
Take the sentence, I could have gone to the store and bought some milk. That is the type text. That is the citation form. 10 distinct words.
10 perfect little words.
But acoustically, when someone says that casually, it morphs into this long, continuous wave of sound.
Yeah, if we break down the transcription of how that is actually spoken, it sounds more like, I could have gone to the store and bought some milk.
I could have gone to the store and bought some milk. Let me try to put myself in the shoes of a learner. If I am an advanced learner and my brain is actively scanning that audio signal, I am waiting to hear the clear, crisp vowel in the word and. I'm waiting for that sharp A.
But the speaker never physically produced that sound. Their tongue never made that shape.
And that is where the wall hits you. You pause. Your brain thinks, wait, what was that sound between store and bought? You try to search your mental dictionary for a word that sounds like un.
Right. And by the time you realize it was just the reduced form of and, the speaker is already 3 sentences ahead talking about the weather.
You have lost the thread, all because you were waiting for a vowel that didn't exist.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is reduction. The vowels relaxing, the words shrinking. The second shapeshifter we have is assimilation. Now, if reduction is shrinking, assimilation feels like things are actively mutating into completely different letters.
Morphing is a great way to think about it. Assimilation occurs when the pronunciation of a sound changes to become more similar to a sound right next to it.
Okay.
And again, we have to look at the physical body here. The human mouth is an incredible machine, but it is deeply, deeply committed to efficiency. It wants to take the absolute shortest route possible between two sounds.
So it's lazy.
Biologically lazy. Moving the tongue around takes micro-milliseconds of effort. If the mouth can anticipate where it needs to be for the next word, it will adjust the current word to get a head start.
I need a physical example of this because it sounds wild. Let's take the phrase from the research, 10 boys. T-E-N space B-O-Y-S.
Okay, try saying 10 in isolation, very slowly.
Yeah.
Where is your tongue?
10. My tongue is tapping the roof of my mouth right behind my front teeth.
Right. That area is called the alveolar ridge. An N is an alveolar sound. Now say, boys. What do your lips do?
Boys! My lips press firmly together to make the B sound.
Perfect. A B is a bilabial sound, meaning it requires both lips. So in citation form, you send your tongue up behind your teeth for the N, bring it down, and then smash your lips together for the B.
Which takes time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in fast connected speech, your brain anticipates that B. It knows the lips have to close. So to save a fraction of a millisecond, instead of sending the tongue all the way up for the N, it just closes the lips early.
Wait, if I close my lips while making an N sound?
Try it. Make an N, hum, and then close your lips.
Wait, it turns into an M.
Exactly. A nasal sound made with closed lips is an M. So because of the gravitational pull of the bilabial B, the alveolar N morphs. Structurally, 10 boys is universally pronounced by native speakers as 10 boys with an M.
That is mind-blowing. 10 boys. I mean, as a listener, if I transcribe that phonetically, it makes zero sense. I would be frantically searching my vocabulary for the word tem.
But the mouth just does it automatically to save energy.
Wow.
And this happens everywhere. Take the phrase in bed, spelled I-M space B-E-D. Because of the B in bed, the N in becomes an M. It sounds exactly like in bed.
Which, again, sounds like a completely different word. If someone says, I stayed in bed all day, a learner from another country might think, what on earth is an embed? Is that a piece of furniture? Is it a technical term?
Right. The mouth doesn't care about spelling. It only cares about physical proximity. Look at the word input. I-N-P-U-T. The P is also a bilabial sound, just like B. You have to close your lips.
So the N before it assimilates, too.
Yes. It is almost always pronounced as input.
With an M input. Okay, here is my favorite one from the stack of research, because it is just a train wreck of letters. Handbag.
Oh, handbag.
You have an N, a D, and a B all shoved together.
Handbag is a masterpiece of lazy articulation because it actually undergoes two distinct processes. First, it drops a sound, which we'll discuss next, and then it assimilates. The N feels the gravitational pull of the B in bag, and it morphs. So handbag becomes hambag, H-A-M-B-A-G.
Oh, let me just grab my handbag. So if you are standing at the coffee machine and your colleague says something about a handbag and your brain is rigidly holding out for a crisp, clear D followed by a B, you will never hear it.
Never. You have to update your mental software to expect the morph.
Which brings us to the third process, which you just hinted at with the missing D in handbag. If reduction shrinks vowels and assimilation morphs consonants, elision is the total, unapologetic deletion of sounds. They just vanish.
It's wiped entirely off the map.
No trace left behind.
Wiped out. This typically happens in consonant clusters. When too many consonants bunch up together, especially across word boundaries, the physical traffic jam in the mouth is just too much to navigate at speed.
A traffic jam?
Yeah. The tongue simply cannot move fast enough to articulate every single consonant, so the brain just deletes the middle one.
Give me a physical example of this traffic jam.
Let's look at the phrase must be. M-U-S-T space B-E. You have an S, a T, and a B jammed together. To say that perfectly, your tongue has to hiss the S, dart up to the alveolar ridge for the T, and then your lips have to clamp shut for the B.
At a conversational speed, that is an acrobatic nightmare.
So what does the mouth do?
It just gives up?
It gives up on the T. The T stands between the S and the B, so it gets entirely elided. The phrase becomes must be.
It must be nice. Wow, the T really is completely gone. I'm not even attempting to make it.
We saw this a moment ago with rock and roll. The D in and vanishes. But the research highlights other incredibly common examples that trip learners up every day. Think about the phrase last night, spelled L-A-S-T space N-I-G-H-T.
Okay, let me analyze the physics of this one. We have the S, the T, and then the N of night. The T is trapped in the middle.
Exactly, so it disappears. You don't say last night with a hard stop. You say last night.
I saw a great movie last night. It just flows right over the missing letter.
Or look at next week. N-E-X-T space W-E-K. This one is brutal. The letter X is actually two consonant sounds, a K and an S.
Right.
So the word next ends in K-S-T. Then you hit the W in week, 4 consonants in a row.
The T doesn't stand a chance.
None. It is instantly deleted. Next week.
I'll see you next week.
Again, put yourself in the mindset of a learner whose native language pronounces every single consonant beautifully and consistently. You're bracing yourself for that hard T in next. When it doesn't arrive, your brain hits the brakes. You assume you misheard the word, but you didn't mishear it. It just wasn't there.
Incredible. And that leads us to the fourth and final shapeshifter, linking. If you've ever felt like English sometimes sounds like one giant, endless word, linking is the culprit.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
This happens when a word ends in a consonant sound, and the very next word begins with a vowel sound.
Right. Instead of maintaining a clear boundary between the words, the consonant detaches from the end of its home word and glues itself to the beginning of the next word. It bleeds over.
It's all about maintaining a continuous stream of air. Your vocal cords don't want to stop vibrating if they don't have to. So the word boundaries that learners desperately rely on to separate one idea from the next, they simply do not exist in the acoustic space.
Let's run the examples from the text. Turn it off. 3 distinct words. Turn it off.
But in connected speech, look at the boundaries. Turn ends in an N consonant. It begins with an I vowel, so the N links forward. It ends with a T. Off begins with an O vowel. The T links forward.
So instead of turn it off, it physically sounds like turn it off.
Yes. Turny-doff. 3 syllables, completely detached from their original spelling. Or take the phrase, pick it up. The K sound goes to the I. The T sound goes to the U. It becomes pickied up.
Pickied up. I know I've said this before, but it literally sounds like a Pokemon. Pickied up. I choose you.
It really does. The acoustic signal is completely foreign to the written text. Let's do one more example. Look at it. Spelled L-O-O-K space A-T space I-T. It links together and transforms into look-a-deet.
Just look-a-dee. Okay, let's take a breath and survey the damage here. We have reduction shrinking the grammar words into schwas. We have assimilation forcing consonants to morph into totally different letters based on proximity.
Right.
We have elision completely deleting letters to save time. And we have linking bleeding the end of one word into the start of another.
It is a messy, messy cursive. But I want to make a crucial intervention here. If you're listening to this and feeling overwhelmed, you need to reframe how you view this mess.
Okay, reframe it how?
These are not mistakes. This is not native speakers being lazy or uneducated or sloppy.
It feels sloppy when you're trying to learn it.
It feels that way, totally. But these are highly consistent, entirely predictable phonological rules. Every native speaker follows them unconsciously. In fact, if a native speaker were to read, look at it, without linking, without elision, giving every word its citation form, they would sound robotic and incredibly unnatural. The chaos is the true nature of the language.
Which raises a massive structural question. Why? Why is English like this? I mean, Spanish doesn't torture its learners to this extreme. French blends things, but it has strict rules for it. Japanese doesn't just delete random consonants in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah.
Why is English such a phonological battlefield?
That's the core question. To understand the why, we have to move beyond the individual words and look at the skeleton of the language. We have to talk about rhythm.
Rhythm.
English is governed by what linguists call stress timing.
Okay, stress timing. This is the drumbeat of the language.
Exactly. Every spoken language has a rhythm, a cadence. In a stress-timed language like English, the rhythm is dictated by the stressed syllables, the heavy beats. The fundamental rule is this: the intervals of time between the stressed syllables tend to be roughly equal in duration, regardless of how many unstressed syllables you cram between them.
I'm going to need to chew on this for a second. So if my native language is Spanish or French or Japanese, I'm coming from a syllable-timed background, right?
Yes. In a syllable-timed language, the rhythm is egalitarian. Every single syllable, whether it's an important noun or a tiny preposition, gets approximately the same amount of time.
Okay.
The rhythm is like a steady metronome or a machine gun, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Each beat is exactly the same size.
But English doesn't care about the syllables. It only cares about the stress points. So my brain, as a Spanish speaker, is patiently waiting for an equal, distinct beat for every single syllable in the sentence. But the English speaker is just stubbornly cramming 3 or 4 syllables into a single beat just to keep their weird internal rhythm going.
That is the exact mechanism that causes all the destruction we just talked about.
Oh, wow.
The stress timing is the primary driver of the reductions, the elisions, the assimilations. Think of English rhythm less like a metronome and more like jazz or Morse code. There are heavy, pronounced beats, and then quick, light, skipped beats in between.
Let me try to build a metaphor here. It's like walking down a staircase. In Spanish, you take 1 step per second. Step, step, step. In English, you decide you have to hit the landings at a specific time. So you might take 1 step, then suddenly jump down 3 stairs at once, just to hit the landing on the beat.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. Let's look at it with words. Take 2 heavy, stressed words, dog and cat. If I say, the dog chased the cat, the time that elapses between the word dog and the word cat is, let's say, 1 second. That's the interval.
Okay. Dog your G, 1 second pause, CIT.
Now, what if I add 3 grammatical function words between them? The dog-y-d could have chased the cat. In a stress-timed language, the interval of time between dog-y and ciad remains essentially the same. 1 second.
Wait, really? You don't expand the time to make room for could, have, and chased?
No. The heavy beats are non-negotiable, which means those 3 unstressed words could, have, chased, have to be severely compressed to fit into the exact same rhythmic window that previously held almost nothing.
So they get squished.
Unstressed syllables must be squished. Their vowels are reduced to schwas, their consonants are deleted, and they are linked together in a frantic rush just to hit the next stressed beat on time.
This is a total paradigm shift for how to listen.
It has to be. Native English speakers do not listen for individual words. They listen for stress groups. They jump from one stressed content word to the next, riding the heavy boots of the sentence, and they let all the compressed, reduced grammar words just wash over them.
But learners from syllable-time backgrounds are stuck on the stairs. They are trying to parse the speech word by word, syllable by syllable, expecting every single element to carry equal acoustic weight.
And that is why you feel like you are always falling behind. You are trying to count every single ripple in the water, while the native speaker is just surfing the main waves. If you take the same amount of time to process the word could as you do for the word dog, you are literally running out of time because the speaker has already raced ahead to hit the next major beat.
Okay, so because of this rhythmic compression, the spaces between the word boundaries become incredibly dangerous. They are the friction points where the language breaks down the most. And this is where we have to talk about some very specific regional quirks that make this even harder, because the cursive changes depending on what country you are in.
It does. Let's look at the 2 most commonly taught models, globally, American English and British English, because it's at these compressed word boundaries where the acoustic signal diverges most dramatically from what your spelling-based brain anticipates.
Right. Let's start with a feature that causes endless frustration for learners exposed to American English, the flap T.
Oh, the flap T, the great American betrayal of the letter T.
It feels like a betrayal, but it's just another rule of efficiency, right?
Right. In American English, there is a highly consistent phonological rule. When a T sound is located between two vowel sounds and the syllable immediately following the T is unstressed, that T transforms into what we call an alveolar flap.
Let me guess. The alveolar flap doesn't sound like a T.
Acoustically, it sounds almost exactly like a very fast D. Instead of a sharp, aspirated tap behind the teeth, the tongue just briefly flicks against the roof of the mouth and keeps moving.
So let's look at the classic examples. The word bottle, B-O-T-T-L-E. You learn it in citation form with a crisp T bottle. But in American speech, that T is trapped between the O and the L vowel sound, so it becomes a flap. It is pronounced bottle.
Exactly. Bottle. Or take the word better. B-E-T-T-E-R. It becomes better.
I'm feeling much better today. It is undeniably a D. And the most famous one, water, W-A-T-E-R. An American will almost never say water. They say waiter.
Waiter, and butter becomes butter.
I have to say, on behalf of all language learners, this is profoundly unfair. You spend years visualizing a P. You memorize the spelling. But the reality of the sound hitting your eardrum is a D. If you learned English from a textbook, or from a teacher speaking with a standard British accent, and then you watch an American movie and the actor asks for a bottle of waiter, your bottom-up processing has absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
And standard British English has its own boundary quirks that act as traps. It isn't immune to the chaos. Many British accents heavily utilize the glottal stop in the exact same environments where Americans use a flap.
Right, the glottal stop. This is where the sound isn't a T and it isn't a D. It's just a void. It's nothing.
Physically, what happens is that instead of the tongue hitting the roof of the mouth to stop the air, your vocal cords down in your throat snap shut momentarily to choke off the airflow. So butter doesn't become butter. It might sound like butter, or water becomes war. And British English also frequently uses the dark L at the ends of words, which is produced much further back in the throat and sounds substantially different from a clear front L, altering the entire shape of words ending in L.
So the reality is the acoustic landscape is just a minefield. It's full of flaps and glottal stops and morphed consonants and swallowed vowels.
It is a minefield. But again, I must emphasize this for you, the listener. It feels chaotic, but it isn't random. The flap T happens in very specific phonetic environments every single time. The glottal stop follows rules.
So they are learnable.
These phenomena are highly teachable, and they are highly learnable. You aren't lacking some magical native speaker hearing gene. You just haven't updated your mental software to include the rule that a T between vowels in America becomes a D. Once you learn the specific loops of the cursive handwriting, you can read it.
That is reassuring. But I have a confession to make. Even knowing all these rules, knowing about assimilation and stress timing and flaps, when I listen to native speakers firing back and forth at lightning speed, it still feels like they are performing magic. How do they actually understand each other? Do native speakers just have perfectly updated mental models running flawlessly at 200 words a minute? Or is there a trick?
There is absolutely a trick. And this brings us to what I consider the most fascinating part of the science, the illusion of perfect hearing.
The illusion of perfect hearing? That sounds ominous.
It's a revelation from psycholinguistics. The secret is that native speakers do not actually process every single sound that hits their ears. They don't hear every letter.
We don't hear all the letters, we just imagine them.
Essentially, yes. We experience the very convincing illusion that we hear all the words crisply and clearly, but we aren't actually building those words sound by sound from the ground up. In cognitive science, we distinguish between two types of processing, bottom-up and top-down.
Okay, let's break those down. Bottom-up processing first.
Bottom-up processing is the purely mechanical approach. It's when you take the raw acoustic data entering your ear, the individual phonemes, and you assemble them like Lego bricks to build a word. You hear a K sound, an A sound, and a T sound, and your brain snaps them together to build the word cat.
That seems like the logical way to listen. That's exactly what I try to do when I'm learning a language. I try to hear the bricks.
Yes, and it is computationally impossible to do that exclusively in fast natural speech. The speech stream simply moves too fast, and as we've spent the last half hour establishing, the acoustic Lego bricks are too degraded, morphed, or missing entirely.
Right. The pieces are broken.
If a native speaker tried to listen purely bottom-up, they would fail. The acoustic signal is genuinely ambiguous. A reduced sound could belong to 20 different words. A deleted T leaves zero trace. There isn't enough raw data to build the words reliably.
So if we can't build it from the bottom up, what are native speakers doing? What is top-down processing?
Top-down processing is prediction. It is the brain acting as an advanced guessing machine. We use our vast knowledge of syntax, our understanding of semantics, and the overall context of the situation to predict what words are highly likely to occur next.
So we guess.
We constantly guess what's coming, and we use the messy, degraded acoustic signal merely to confirm or disconfirm those guesses. We don't use the sound to build the word. We use the sound to check our math.
So it's literally like the autocomplete function on a smartphone keyboard.
That is a perfect analogy. If you type, "I'm going to the toe," your phone immediately predicts store, park, bathroom. It uses the context of the sentence to narrow down the infinite possibilities into 3 highly probable options.
And your brain does that with speech.
Your brain does the exact same thing with speech. It predicts the word store, and it only needs a tiny snippet of an is sound to confirm it. It completely ignores the fact that the preceding phrase, to the was mumbled as a chaotic tr.
And this reveals the massive trap that you, the advanced learner, fall into. This is the core of the comprehension wall, because you actually do have the grammar and the vocabulary to predict what's coming next. You have the structural knowledge base.
You do. A B2 or C1 learner is perfectly capable of predicting context.
But because you were trained in a classroom environment that prioritized accuracy above all else, you haven't developed the habit of predicting. You don't trust the autocomplete.
Exactly. When an advanced learner hears an ambiguous sound, a glottal stop, a weirdly assimilated consonant, a massive reduction, they panic. They instantly stop their top-down predictive engine and revert to bottom-up processing.
They hit the brakes?
They pause the tape in their mind and try to analyze that specific mystery sound to figure out what letter it was supposed to be.
Wait, was that an M or an N? Did he say embed?
And because the conversation is moving at 150 words a minute, that millisecond pause is fatal. It causes them to fall behind. While they are analyzing the M in bed, the speaker has delivered the next 5 words. The thread of the conversation is entirely lost, not because they didn't know the vocabulary, but because they stopped to inspect the paint on a speeding train.
So, to translate this into actionable advice for you, the listener, you have to resist the urge to resolve every single mystery sound. When you're listening to a fast conversation, you have to cultivate a tolerance for ambiguity. You have to ride the wave of the gist, lean heavily into the context, and let your brain's autocomplete function do the heavy lifting. If you stop to inspect every messy cursive letter, you will never finish reading the sentence.
It requires a leap of faith. You have to trust that your vocabulary and grammar knowledge are strong enough to carry you over the inevitable gaps in the acoustic signal.
But just when you think you are ready to take that leap of faith, just when you think, okay, I'm going to rely on context, I'm going to predict the flaps and the reductions, the game changes again. Because predicting what a speaker will say is hard enough when they follow the rules you know, but what happens when the speaker's accent completely changes the rules of the cursive?
That is the accent multiplier.
Yeah.
And it is arguably the most disorienting hurdle for the advanced listener.
Let's contextualize this. The vast majority of formal English instruction around the world is trained on one of 2 standard models: General American or Received Pronunciation, which is the prestige standard for British English.
Yes, those are the baseline models. But the real world does not restrict itself to prestige models. The English-speaking world is incredibly vast and phonologically diverse.
Right.
Real life includes regional UK accents like Northern English or West Country. It includes Scottish, Irish, Australian, Indian, South African, and countless other distinct varieties.
And if you have spent 5 years carefully training your ears on General American audio, and suddenly you jump onto a Zoom call with a colleague from Glasgow, Scotland, or Brisbane, Australia, your top-down predictive engine completely stalls out. It crashes.
It crashes because the accent variation affects the very phonetic anchors you use to confirm your predictions. We talked about using that tiny est sound to confirm the word store. But what if the vowels and consonants shift so drastically that your brain doesn't recognize the anchor at all? The most profound differences lie in vowel quality.
Break that down. How much can a vowel really change?
Substantially. The same exact word with the exact same spelling and meaning will have a physically different vowel sound in a broad Northern English accent compared to General American. The vowel space in the mouth is mapped entirely differently.
Let's take a word like bath or class. In standard Southern British, it's a very open, back-of-the-mouth vowel like bath. You drop the jaw. But in American English, it's a front, flatter, almost nasal vowel like goth. And then if you go to Northern England, it shifts again, often sounding shorter, much closer to the American version, but with different resonance.
Exactly. If your brain's autocomplete predicts the word bath, but it's expecting to hear bath, and the acoustic signal delivers bath, the confirmation fails. The predictive engine stalls. Another massive fault line is rhoticity, the pronunciation of the rhotic R.
Oh, this is a huge one. General American and Irish English are strongly rhotic. They stubbornly pronounce the R after a vowel, like in the words car or hard or water.
But standard British, South African, and Australian English are generally non-rhotic. They drop that post-vocalic R entirely, often lengthening the preceding vowel instead. Car becomes ka. Hard becomes hard.
So if you are listening to a South African colleague and your bottom-up processing is desperately relying on that hard R sound to confirm the word hard, and the speaker just drops it into the void, your brain panics. It thinks, hod. Is that a new vocabulary word?
The vowel shifts in Australian English are also notorious for this. The broad Australian accent features significant diphthong shifts. A diphthong is a gliding vowel. The A sound in a word like day or mate might drift downwards, sounding much closer to the I in die or might to an untrained American or British ear.
G'day, mate sounds like giddy might, which fundamentally changes the acoustic anchor.
And then we have varieties like South Asian English's Indian English, for example, which fundamentally alter the rhythm. We spent all that time discussing stress timing and how it forces reductions. But many Indian English varieties incorporate more syllable-timed intonation patterns influenced by native South Asian languages.
Wait, let me wrap my head around this. If an Indian English speaker is using a more syllable-timed rhythm, where syllables get more equal weight, that actually completely changes where the reductions and illusions happen, doesn't it? The drum beat is different.
Absolutely. The stress timing rules we established are applied differently. The schwas might not happen where an American would put them. The T's might not flap. The cursive handwriting follows a completely different set of loops and swoops.
So if I am a learner sitting at my desk, looking at a calendar full of international Zoom calls, what do? Do I have to go back to square one? Do I have to buy a Scottish textbook and an Australian textbook and relearn the entire language for every single accent?
No, absolutely not. And this is a vital mindset shift. You do not need new grammar. You do not need new vocabulary. A B2 learner has the semantic knowledge required. What you need is a recalibration of your phonological expectations.
Recalibration, just updating the software.
You already know the word mate. You just have to update the acoustic file attached to it in your brain to include the Australian variant. The research is very clear on this. The most efficient, evidence-based strategy for handling multiple accents is targeted, active exposure. You need to intentionally expose yourself to the specific accents that are most relevant to your life or career.
If your company just got bought by a firm in London, stop listening to American true crime podcasts and start listening to British panel shows.
Exactly. And the research suggests you should specifically target the accents that are furthest away from your baseline model to stretch your phonological flexibility. If you are comfortable with American English, listening to Canadian English won't stretch you. Listening to Scottish English will force your predictive engine to become robust and adaptable.
Okay, we have thoroughly diagnosed the disease here. We have mapped the entire battlefield. We know about the citation form trap. We know the physical mechanics of the four shapeshifters: reduction, assimilation, elision, and linking.
We do.
We understand the relentless, compressed drumbeat of stress timing. We know about the danger zones at word boundaries like the flap T and the glottal stop. We realize that we are failing to predict because we are stuck in bottom-up processing, and we know that the accent multiplier makes prediction even harder.
We have stripped the engine down to its parts.
So we need the cure. How do we put it back together? What are the concrete evidence-based practices to actually fix this and scale the comprehension wall? Because just having the radio on in the background while I chop vegetables isn't going to cut it, is it?
No, it won't. Passive listening, just letting the language wash over you while you focus on something else, does very little to alter your phonological processing at this advanced stage.
Okay.
To literally rewire how your brain decodes sound, you need active, targeted, uncomfortable training. The research converges on a very specific blueprint for better listening, built on 4 essential pillars of practice.
Let's break them down. What is the first practice?
The first pillar is repeated listening with a delayed transcript. The methodology here is very specific. You take a short piece of fast, authentic audio. And I mean authentic, no artificially slowed down learner audio, no pedagogical materials. A real podcast, a real interview, real unscripted dialogue. You listen to it repeatedly, maybe 3 or 4 times, without any help.
So you force yourself to sit in the discomfort. You let your brain try to predict, try to map the sounds, try to find the anchors, even when it's failing.
You let the predictive engine struggle, and then, crucially, on the final pass, you read the transcript while you listen to the audio.
The transcript is the big reveal. Why does doing it in that specific order work so well?
Because of what happens neurologically in that moment. When you finally read the clean, accurate text while hearing the messy, reduced, linked acoustic signal, your brain experiences a powerful aha moment. It actively maps the chaotic audio you've been struggling with to the clean citation-formed vocabulary words you already know.
It's like staring at an optical illusion for 10 minutes, seeing nothing but noise, and then someone points out the hidden picture. Once your brain sees it, you can't unsee it.
Precisely. This produces a disproportionate improvement in your phonological processing because you are explicitly training your brain to recognize the cursive handwriting. Once you map I could have gone to I could have gone, that new neural recognition will automatically transfer to new material you listen to in the future.
That makes total sense. Okay, what is the second practice in the blueprint?
The second pillar is minimal pair discrimination, but upgraded for the advanced learner. You've probably done minimal pairs for individual letters when you were a beginner, practicing the difference between ship and sheep, or bat and bat.
Right, where changing just one isolated sound changes the entire meaning of the word.
Yes, but at the B2 or C1 level, you don't need to practice ship and sheep. You need to apply this concept to connected speech phenomena. You need to actively train your ear to hear the morphed, reduced forms in isolation so you can spot them in the wild.
So we're talking about explicitly practicing things like wanna for want to, gonna for going to, have to for have to.
Exactly. Or the difference between can and can't in fast speech, where the T is often elided, and the only difference is a slight shift in vowel length and stress. The research shows that learners who are specifically trained to identify these clustered, reduced forms in isolation develop a heightened acoustic sensitivity. When you practice hearing wanna 50 times, your brain flags it instantly when it's buried in the middle of a high-speed, chaotic sentence.
Okay, the third pillar, and I'm going to warn you, the listener, this one sounds exhausting. But the research says it might be the most powerful tool in the arsenal, active transcription.
It is exhausting. It is the linguistic equivalent of a grueling, high-intensity interval workout at the gym. Active transcription is the practice of taking a very short snippet of fast, authentic audio, maybe just 30 to 60 seconds, and attempting to write down exactly, word for word, letter for letter, what you hear.
And we don't just mean the gist. You mean writing down every single, every dropped consonant.
You have to try to capture the exact phonetic reality of what was spoken. And then you check your grueling, messy transcription against the actual accurate text. The reason this is among the most highly effective practices ever researched is because it forces an intense, uncomfortable level of phonological attention that your brain normally avoids.
Because when you passively listen, your top-down predicting brain just papers over the cracks. You hear a mumbling sound, your brain predicts next week, and you think, yeah, I understood that perfectly. You never realize that you didn't actually hear the elided T or the assimilated consonant.
Active transcription forces you to confront the cracks. When your hand has to physically write the letter T, your brain is forced to ask, did I actually hear a T? And you realize, wow, I thought he said next week, but he actually completely dropped the T. There was just silence there. This process aggressively overwrites your flawed mental models. It forces your bottom-up processing to sync with reality.
It sounds painful, but I can see how that would rewire your brain incredibly fast. Which brings us to the fourth and final pillar. A broader philosophy that governs how you should engage with English media, generally productive difficulty.
Productive difficulty is a concept from cognitive science. It's about finding the Goldilocks zone for your listening practice.
Not too hot, not too cold.
If you are listening to something that is fully comfortable, meaning you understand 100% of it without any effort, you know every word, you catch every joke, you are not doing any new phonological learning. You are coasting.
It's like going to the gym and lifting a 1-pound weight for an hour. It doesn't build any new muscle because there is no friction.
But conversely, if you decide to watch a gritty, slang-filled crime drama set in a noisy pub in a dialect you aren't familiar with multiple characters talking over each other, it is too hard. That produces intense frustration and cognitive overload. And again, no phonological learning occurs because you can't even get a basic contextual foothold to start your predictive engine. It's just noise.
So where is the Goldilocks zone for language?
It is right on the edge of your capability. It's the zone where you understand the vast majority of the semantic content, maybe 80 to 90%, but there are still moments of real friction. There are still phrases where you have to stretch, or a connected speech pattern momentarily throws you off, but you have enough context to recover and keep going.
Engaging with authentic, unscripted conversational content that uses natural pace, discourse markers, hesitations, and reductions, much like the dynamic of this very conversation we are having right now, is exactly how you build both those bottom-up decoding skills and those top-down predictive skills simultaneously. You have to live in that zone of productive difficulty.
It's the only way to scale the wall.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's consolidate this. If you want to overcome the comprehension wall, you have to throw away the expectation that people will speak using crisp dictionary citation forms. You have to embrace the messy reality of reduction, assimilation, elision, and linking. You have to start listening for equal syllables and start feeling the stress-time, jazz-like drumbeat of the language.
You have to learn to navigate the danger zones at word boundaries. Actively update your mental dictionary for things like the flap T. And most importantly, you have to stop trying to build words from the bottom up. You must trust your vocabulary, lean into the context, and let your brain predict what's coming next.
And you have to put in the reps. Repeated listening with transcripts, isolating connected speech forms, doing the grueling work of active transcription, and constantly seeking out that Goldilocks zone of productive difficulty.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought, a challenge really, to help solidify everything we've talked about today.
I am always up for a challenge. Lay it on me.
I want you to listen to your own native language today. Pay incredibly close analytical attention to how you and your friends or family speak in a casual, relaxed conversation. Are you pronouncing every single letter of every single word perfectly, like a news anchor reading a dictionary?
Definitely not.
Exactly. Are you mushing words together? Are you dropping sounds at the ends of sentences? Are you relying heavily on rhythm and shared context to get your point across?
I can guarantee they are dropping sounds. Every single living, breathing language on Earth does this in its own unique way to achieve flow, speed, and efficiency. We are all lazy speakers.
We are. And once you actively observe this phenomenon in your own native tongue, once you realize that your own handwriting is incredibly messy and cursive too, the chaos of fast English suddenly doesn't seem so malicious or unfair. It stops being a wall designed to keep you out, and it starts making perfect, beautiful sense. It's just the natural sound of human beings trying to connect with each other at the speed of thought.
That is such a powerful perspective shift. The cursive isn't broken, it's just efficient. Thank you for going down this incredibly deep rabbit hole with us today. Keep practicing, keep leaning into the productive difficulty, and as always, keep diving deep.